Okay, that's the product. It's going to take some of the old glue off. I actually removed the old clip. I'm just going to get rid of some of the glue that was left behind with the last clip that was on. This has been quite an impressive product, surprised me actually. Tried a few things in the past that you've just seen probably in the video. However, none of them really worked very well. Probably the most successful one was the show clips. But the trouble is they just worked on the end of the nail rather than near the root of the nail. Because the curve starts at the root and it grows forward. And if the nail becomes convoluted, as is what happened, it starts to pinch the skin, and the longer it grows, the more it pinches. And I've had some agonising moments when the last one was in the cropotis, and that was a really painful ordeal. So I thought I'd try these. As a matter of fact, I'd ordered these when the nail got so painful. I went to the cropotis. And she cut the nail away on the sides, and that did relieve the pain on the foot. And usually I say about 3 months when I have that done. I've done a few times now, but in between times I thought I'd ordered these, but they were coming from China and they took absolutely weeks and weeks to arrive. So I tried these, and I've used 3 of these little clips so far. I've left them on for 4 weeks at a time. And the first one I put across was really uncomfortable. After a while, the tension of this across the nail, is it really does put the nail under stress. And it's that initial lifting, trying to take the curve out of the nail, that causes the pain. But it lasts for about a week, like that. Just a bit of throbbing. It's not really bad. Just uncomfortable. But the first time I did it was the worst. Now the glue, but you've got to be very, very careful of. You remember this is super glue. We call it nail glue, but it's basically super glue. Right? So you don't want that stuff running down the side of the nail there and getting between the flesh and the nail. So you've got to be very, very careful how you use it. And so what I do is this. What to do is this. Put it down here where you can see it. Move the bottle out of the way. And I put a bit of this on here. So with a little drop on the end of there. This is the best tool to use for this, trust me. It grips it because it's rough on the end, and apart from it's semicircular as well, it stops any glue that swells it out, it stops this from sticking to this. Now I'm putting that there, but to try and make sure it's straight, it's a bit difficult. I've got to hold this here now for a good couple of minutes. So at this point I'll just stop filming, I'll turn it on again in a bit. Right, so I've given this about 3 minutes now with just that dab of adhesive on it. And what I'm going to do now is, I've just got a little brush. There's a little brush here. Just going to brush it down there, just to get it in there. Now put that, that's just a bit of soap, liquid soap. And because the next thing I'm going to do now is run a bit more of this. I only put a bit on before. So now I'm going to run a little bit of this into it on the top here. Now this is just going to make sure there's a bit more adhesive in. Because when I stretch it over the nail, it needs to be strong. That's it, just a little blob there. You don't want it pouring down here, that's why I put the soap there, so that we don't get any glue against the skin. No big deal if it really does happen, it's not a big problem. Right, so I put more glue in there, so I'm going to leave that now for about another 3 or 4 minutes. I might even give it 5 minutes to make sure it's firmly on. Because when I bend that over there, if it snaps off, you've got to start again from the beginning. Not what I want to do. Right, okay, so this is now had about 10 minutes. Very important to make sure that this is securely anchored here, so it's stuck on there now. I don't know whether you can see this very well. I'm going to try and zoom in. Sometimes it gets a bit blurred when I zoom in. It's how good that is, but perhaps you can see this. And the idea now is I can bend that over here, like this. And it's too long, so I've got to cut some off it to get it to the right length. So that's the next step. Yeah, that's okay. Get the sharp corners off. Right, that's all ready for gluing. Now what you don't want to do is, you don't want glue in the middle. If you have glue in the middle, I have a feeling it may hinder the flattening out of the nail, because essentially that's what you're trying to do. You know, you've got to remember the nail was very convoluted. It was a lot narrower than this when I started. And very convoluted there, and it was digging in under there. So flattening it out seems to be doing the trick. This is the best result I've had with anything that I've tried. Right, so the next step, we're back to the glue pot. And this time you can't really see exactly how much glue you're putting under it because you're looking underneath it. So again, what you don't want is it all running down. So I'm working blind a bit there. Apply a bit of soap down here. Make sure it doesn't go on the area where the glue needs to be. Just to try and stop that. Any glue does run down there, it's not going to stick to the skin. Right, now this. Pull that over there, and using the end of that, let's push that down. You've got to be careful. See, you've got glue there on my fingers. And I've just got to keep this here now until that glue's set. Try using that just to keep it there. Oops. Yep. Right, I've got it right on the end there. Let's hope it stays there. Now then, to try and demonstrate something to you. This, you can see this. I'll use that there as a measure, and just holding that on one side of the nail where it just meets the skin. The overhang on what's my left hand side of the nail is probably about 2 to 3 millimeters. Now then, this is the other foot. This nail is exactly well, I would say exactly the same width as what the offending foot is, or was. Now if I hold this is got a good curve on it, a bit convoluted. Now the other one turned in on the edges, and that's what really gave me the problem. This one is manageable, but if I hold this on this side here to that side there, this is about the width. So that nail has flattened out and taken the curve out, but the nail is now 2 to 3 mil wider, and hopefully that is going to stop this growing over. This is starting to grow over the end now. If I hadn't have had this on now, I think this would have been giving me trouble. So this is pretty good. You'll also notice that, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a bit of an airspace there. When you when you fold that down and you run a bit more glue in just to make sure it's secure, it always runs up. But there's still a gap in the middle. I like to see that gap in the middle, because I think as the nail tries to flatten out, you probably need that gap to allow this to expand upwards a bit. That's just a feeling, I don't know whether it's a fact. Now the other thing I would say to you is, when you come to take these off, what you need to do is cut them in the middle. That's another reason for having that gap. You cut it in the middle there, and then the loose ends spring up. And then what you need is something like this. This is a nail polish remover, but the one thing, or probably the only thing that will melt down super glue is acetone. You can see that there. Right, so acetone nail polish remover, and then what you do is you brush that over it, and then in no time at all you can just clip the clips off, and then before you put a new one on, you just file the original glue off the nail, and you can start again with a fresh clip. And fundamentally that is the process. So remember, brilliant for pressing down. Really got to be very careful with your fingers. I had my fingers stuck together for a moment, as you saw. So, and I've done this now. This is the 4th time I've done it. So super glue is dodgy stuff. So you've got to be very, very careful what you're doing. And that's good because it grips the plastic. It doesn't overhang the sides, so if there's anything squelched out at the sides, you're not going to finish up with this stuck to the nail. Right, okay. So that's it. It's on. And remember the procedure for taking it off. Cut it, acetone, snap it off, clean it up. Right, and what I'm going to do now is just going to show you some of the devices I've used in the past. What I did was, I used to soak my foot in a bowl of hot soapy water for about 15 minutes to soften the nail. And then I bought a pulley drawer like this. So you hook that, put that there, and you've got to hook those under the ends of the nail. And it gradually, they just hook in there, a bit difficult to get on, but you get them in, and then you tighten this thing up, and it lifts the edges of the nail. Right, so with your foot out of water, and the nail's soft, you put that on there, and you leave it on for about half an hour. so the nails start to harden up, then you can take it off. And it just lifts the edges away. Some of the edges, it falls back, but not as far. So it did help, but the trouble is, because that is pushing down on the top of the nail, and this is pulling up from the underneath, what you finish up with is a square nail because it flattens out on the top. Not very good. Not very good. In fact, so that bit of plastic that I had to make that to try and spread these out, to try and pull the nail outwards, because it was just real tip, just bending it up. So that was that. I also bought a different one, thinking this might pull at a better angle than the other one. But this turned out to be a lot of rubbish. Because the clips, those claws, weren't deep enough there to grip underneath the nail. So, total waste of money on that one. That one had to be modified to make it do it. And it wasn't a solution in the end at all anyway. But what I did try after that, you have to let the nail grow. But I tried these shull clips. You can see what it does there. Now, you've got to let the nail grow about 2 mils out from the end of the toe. Then you can clip these things on. It does make, you've got a bit of a long toenail then, because you've got the clip on the end and a long toenail, and it wears holes in your socks. And it did, no doubt about it, it did help. But I think what you've got to do is, you need to treat this from the back of the nail. That's where it's growing round, like that. Now, you'll notice that isn't straight. That's because when you put it on, it's sticking up and you can't tell, it's hard to tell. It's your best guess. And you only realise whether you've got it straight or not till they start to lie down. So it's a bit crooked. But what they tell you in the instructions is, don't put it over the moon, put it just in front of the moon on the nail and bend it over. And because the roundness, the curve, starts here where it grows out. So you don't want it right on the end. You've got to be back here, at least in the middle of the nail. That one should have been straighter coming across here. But it ain't. And it is what it is now. I've never managed to get one perfectly straight yet. Well, these, yes, they did work. But it didn't last long because I was only treating the end of the nail and not near the moon where it's growing out of the foot. That's the thing you need to try and flatten out. If you've got the same problem as me, of course. Not necessarily the case. Anyway, I think that's about as much as I can show you. Just try and zoom shot on that nail. Now I think that's a step too far. So, there's nothing much I can add to that. So, hope that helps.